There are plenty of tier lists for every Joker in Balatro, but the problem is all of those tier lists are for single player, and after playing 1,000 hours of multiplayer, it's clear that these tier lists do not apply.
Moving on to Dusk. I think it's D tier.
So I decided to rank every Joker for Balatro multiplayer as a guide for anyone new to the mod. Let's just get F tier out of the way. It's easy, we just go obelisk, gray it out. You don't even need to see that Joker, it's fine. S+, these are the best Jokers, doesn't get better than that. F tier, unplayable, there probably is never a time you're using this Joker. C tier, very situational, maybe it can be useful with the exact right circumstances. B tier, solid pickup, your trios, that's going to be good scoring. A tier, these are Jokers you can't pass. You see this in the shop, even if it's not useful at the moment, you have to pick that up just in case, or it's just a good Joker that you can't pass it up either way. S tier, endgame build, these are going to be just the builds that are staying the entire game. You're building towards this Joker and that you don't need to worry about finding something else. And then S+ is just the best Jokers for multiplayer. Jimbo, I think, is a very situational. It has to be an early game that's enough to get you through like the first 5 blinds, and it's $2 pickup, so it's situational for sure. And for all the greedy, lusty, wrathful, and gluttonous, I need to add a new tier for all these commons. Give me, it does something. These, they do something. That's 15 malt. You put a chat on them. It's a 20 malt Joker. It's a decent amount of scoring. I think Sly, very situational. If you are lacking chips, that's something you need. Also, individually scoring these, it's probably you because of Arrowhead, you because of Bloodstone, and then you because of Rough Gem, and then you don't need Gluttonous for any reason. These are all, it does something. This, I would say, is worse than Jimbo. I would rather have Jimbo to live the first few blinds rather than Crazy Joker. Droll, I think, is probably the easiest of these. These are just, you're only picking them up if that's it. Actually, this is Jolly. Jolly's fine. Sly can go down here. This is for White Steak, by the way. Wily is very situational. You have no chips. I honestly pick up a Sly in like ante 3 sometimes because all you have is a smiley face for scoring and it can triple your score on a full house. Clever kind of for that same reason. I think those do rank above a Jimbo, and then we drop these down here. Half Joker, I think it's a B tier. I think that's a solid early game Joker if you find the pieces with it. Stencil, I think, is a clear, very situational Joker. If there's just decent Jokers to pick up in the seed, it's gonna scale down and down. So I think I have to put that in D. Also, Four Fingers. I think all of these are more useful situational. Maybe I'll put straights below because you don't want to play straights. You don't want to die to a blind like that. You pick it up from a buffoon pack because it's $7 normally. It's way too expensive of a Joker, almost unplayable because of its price to pick up in a shop early game, but obviously there are situations for it. Delayed Grat early game is a can't pass because this can definitely get you closer to the interest cap in those first couple antes, so it's definitely a solid pickup as long as you have a scoring Joker to make it through the blinds. You can't pass on it. Just in those first 2 antes though. Mime. Okay. Mime provides a lot of value. Almost every game involves steal in some way, so it's going to be scoring that way. It's going to be money from your gold cards because you always want to be building into gold. I don't think I can put it in S+, but it's definitely an S tier Joker. Just a solid Joker for multiplayer for sure. I think this is a good time to pull up my stats. And I got the Flower Pot mod, so we can get a good look at our card stats, and you can see Mime Baron all the way down here, Photo Chat all the way up here. I'm very much not a high card player. Bean is above Mime. That's crazy. I mean, I always take a Bean, but yeah, Mime on 3rd page because it's never high card. I have maybe used credit card once. Bottom of D tier for credit card for sure. Ceremonial Dagger. I think this is our first unplayable Joker. It costs so much to scale, and it just doesn't scale enough for White Stake. Though it's a great gold stake card, even gold stake multiplayer sometimes, it is definitely unplayable. Banner. It does something. We'll put it just above Four Fingers, but technically it does do something. Mystic Summit. I guess I put it below the suit jokers because sometimes it's annoying, but Mystic Summon's good. It does something for sure. Okay. Is there a joker worse than this? There's just never a case for it. This might be the bottom of the tier list. Loyalty card. Sometimes 4x is too strong to pass up, and you have to just deal with the fact that it's annoying. But late game, it's not worth the value it costs. I think loyalty card is a very high B tier. 8 ball. Sometimes 8 ball is an S tier. Sometimes it's below obelisk. I think it's got to be B tier because tarots are so important in multiplayer. You have to be playing towards them, even if it is something as annoying as 8 ball is. Tarot gen is too important that it's going to be a solid pickup in most scenarios. Misprint. A lot of the times you want to know exactly what you score to generate value in the blinds. It might be worse than a joker because joker's consistent. You know what it scores. Jimbo gives you that +4 every time, and you know if you're going to beat the blind or die. Misprint, you know, you play all your high cards to not win, and then you need it to give you like a +2 on the final hand, and it misses, and you die to the big blind of ante 2. I don't think I can put it above Jimbo. Dusk. Okay, let's take a look at my joker stats again, because Dusk is the top of the list other than the common jokers. Always gonna work unless you have the full Baron setup. You have to keep a Dusk in case the idol shows. You cannot pass a Dusk, and it is gonna be part of your endgame build for sure. You know, if Dusk just re-triggered every card every hand, it'd be S+, but I think Dusk is an S tier joker. Race Fist is solid, you know, maybe you have a Red Seal Steel to throw with it. Race Fist can be very good with that. I think it's definitely above half joker, but I can't put it above 8 ball here. Chaos the Clown, I mean, that's a can't pass. You have a mediocre joker in the lineup that's probably going to be gone before PvP. Sell that, buy the clown, roll, and maybe even sell it again. You can't pass it. That's a free roll. Fibonacci. Sometimes it can be bait to invest too much into Fibonacci, you know, with a hack. You can score quite a lot. It's definitely a B tier joker. I think we'll put it right between 8 ball and loyalty because this is a joker you can build around for the first 3 or 4 antes, and it can do a lot, but obviously you don't want to invest too much in a Fibonacci build. Steel Joker, very situational. By the time Steel Joker's online, you already have solid enough scoring because you have a good amount of steel cards. So the amount that it provides is so little, but you know, still sometimes a 2x can be useful. Scary Face is solid. This might be my favorite source of chips other than planet levels, of course. I think with so few good sources of chips in the game, Scary Face is a very solid B tier. Abstract, just some good early game scoring. Put it right around Mystic Summit. Hack. Is Hack a can't pass joker? I do pass Hack a lot, but if you have the free slot, I don't think you can pass on Hack. I'm gonna put it below Chaos the Clown. Chaos the Clown is such a solid econ joker when being ahead in shop is so important in multiplayer, but you can't pass on a Hack. You gotta watch out for the Glass 5 that's in the pack or the Polychrome. Hack is an A tier. Paradolia? Look, some may say Paradolia very situational. You know, there's only a few synergies, but I think the synergies with Paradolia are so strong that it makes it a solid pickup. I love a speculative Paradolia, and if you find that Faceless or the Midas Mask, you're so golden. Banana. I think I put it above Gluttonous and above Greedy. Guess it goes above Wrathful as well. Odd Todd's good chips. It works with the Fib. It kind of has the same essence of Scary Face, but because it's odd cards, it's a lot worse. I think I'm happy with it. Bottom B. Even Steven. I'm not a big Even Steven fan, but I think I put it above all the suit jokers. We'll put Even Steven top of C. Scholar. There's no reason to build into a 5 of a kind of aces. You know, maybe you took a gold ace from a pack and you have the 5 of a kind. It's probably the worst of these mid-tier on-scoring jokers. Pretty much just to survive the blinds joker. Below the suit jokers. Business card. Okay, business card. This shocked me. I was looking at my stats. Top 10 for business card. Maybe it's just that I'm a gambling man, but I love me some business card. You're built into face cards so often that I always take the business card. The stats don't lie. It's you can't pass on business card. Okay. Supernova. Supernova is instantly made obsolete by a flush house, by any decent hand in the game. You know, you're not pair spamming. This isn't gold stake. It's an expensive buy. Supernova, unplayable. Speaking of unplayable, especially on white stake, ride the bus. You can't even like utilize it to survive the blinds because you want to play face cards. You know, maybe you have a scary face to also survive the blinds. Maybe you have a Midas mask you want to get value from. Maybe you have an early business card. Ride the bus, unplayable card. All right, Spaceman. Spaceman does something, you know, a flush house level can go a long way for the rest of the match. Spaceman's a useful card sometimes. High card levels, if you are doing that. Spaceman does something for sure. Egg. I almost want to put egg in can't pass because if you have a joker slot for egg, it is always worth it to pick it up. It gives you at least $1 gain if you hold it for only 1 round. And it's also good for that temperance value on Zodiac deck. You can't pass it. I think I definitely put it above Delayed Grat, but I can't put it above 8 Ball. We'll put Egg in a solid B tier. Burger. I think I'll put it right behind Stencil. There's just too much value to get from discards. Okay, Blackboard. Blackboard's a scary pickup because if you miss that draw, it can be very punishing. Sometimes you have to be safer with your discards and you can lose value that way. But I think Blackboard is a solid pickup for sure. Okay, Runner. As long as you have no value to gain, Runner is something to scale, and like a 90 chips Runner could last quite a few antes, so it can be useful, but obviously situational. We'll put Runner right above Misprint. Ice Cream. Ice Cream, some solid chips. You know, with there being a lot more mult jokers than chips jokers in the game, I think you can put it pretty high up here. Definitely does something. DNA, I think, is a can't pass. If you have any value in your deck, DNA is a can't pass. The problem with DNA and why it's not the top of A tier and not an S tier is because, like I said, for, you know, Delayed Grat, for Banner, there's so much value to gain from your discards, and sometimes you just can't get that with DNA. And also sometimes you just miss your draw with DNA and you had to sell a good joker for it. So it's an annoying card, but it's a can't pass. Splash, very situational, almost never useful, very middle of a situational joker. Blue Joker, I like Ice Cream more than Blue Joker. So I think they're right next to each other, but Blue Joker is going to be worse than the Ice Cream, and I probably put it below the Suit Jokers. Sixth Sense. That is the most can't pass joker. You see a Sixth Sense, there are so many game-changing spectrals. You know, you get that Ankh on the Ancient Joker, you get the Cryptid, you get the Deja Vu. The only time you can pass this if you already have like 2 strong jokers that you couldn't Ankh and a Red Seal. Constellation. Wow, 25 rounds with Constellation, yeah. It's just not worth the investment to scale it because everything else in the game scales faster. You know, your scoring is going to scale faster than a Constellation and it just can't keep up, except for some very rare situations. So I think it's too slow of a joker to scale. Okay, Hiker is very situational. I do like picking up a Hiker if you have any retrigger joker and the slot for it, just because chips are hard to come by and Hiker can be those chips, you know. So D tier. Okay, Faceless Joker. I love Faceless Joker. $5 per discard. You know, sometimes it can even make more than rebate. If you have any of these jokers, these enablers that allow you to still survive the blind and completely greed Faceless, this is one of the quickest ways to get up to interest cap in the first few antes and still a useful enough amount of econ that you can take this mid to late game. So I think it's below all these. I think it's above Chaos the Clown though. Definitely an A tier. Grimbo, unplayable on white stake. We'll slice the Grimbo with the dagger because it is just so useless. There's no reason to not use your discards. So worth more to sell for interest in every single scenario, making it an unplayable card. Superposition. It's a situational card, but tarots are so valuable that you have to pick up a superposition in those first couple antes and a suit changer from it, or a Hermit from it can be game changing, so you just can't be passing on this early on. A solid pickup in a lot of scenarios. Cavendish, you know, because Banana is very rarely worth holding on to for it to pop, it's hard to find that Cavendish. There's a lot of jokers that I take more than Cavendish. I think it's safe to put it here in B tier. To-do list? Ooh. I think it goes right next to 8 Ball, you know. It can be very good, but if you get unlucky with it, it's just a waste of a joker slot and can be a very annoying card. Card Sharp. Card Sharp is an interesting one because early on, the strongest way to get scoring is just play a big hand. Play the hand with your steal in it. Play the hand with the flush house levels that you've gotten. And it's hard to draw multiple of those. But when Card Sharp works, when you're doing high card, it is very strong. Card Sharp is the scoring version of these jokers. It can be good, but sometimes you just miss the second draw of the hand and you've wasted all your scoring and lost the PvP to it. I think Blackboard is a lot easier to do with most builds than Card Sharp. Okay, red card, too expensive to scale. Red card is an unplayable card on white stake. There's almost never a time where you want to be skipping packs. Madness, we'll put it one above Marble Joker, but Madness definitely unplayable in white stake. Square Joker, if there's any value in your deck, you want to be playing 5 cards to get deeper in your deck. But because chips are rarer, we'll put it right below Supernova, but on higher stakes could be worth it. Seance. This I want to put with Obelisk. I really do. I've been baited by Seance. Seance can give a lot, but it can cost a lot to build towards Seance. You know, you could build a flush house that you can draw to score with your trio in PvP, or you could use that tarot card to build your straight flush with Seance. I think 6 cents, you can very rarely justify passing. Seance, you can't always draw a straight flush, but sometimes you gotta onk the Seance. Sometimes you gotta onk the Seance. Family, we're selling the family. Why not? Why not just sell the family and onk Invis right away? Why not onk Invis right away? What? We're onking Seance! You can't pass a Seance in a lot of scenarios, and I'd probably take it more than hack. Let's see where Seance is on the list. I usually get out of Seance pretty quick, but 145 rounds with Seance. That is a non-scoring joker, non-econ joker that I'm keeping so often because Spectrals are game-winning in multiplayer. You need to invest in Seance a lot of the times. So Seance, you can't pass it, but I'm taking Chaos the Clown when I see it more often than I'm taking Seance when I see it. Riffraff? Can't pass a Riffraff. If you don't have a bunch of good jokers, you have to take the Riffraff. If it can enable you to get an econ joker faster than your opponent, it can win you so many games. Riffraff early on is 100% a take almost over every one of these jokers below it. Vampire. Okay, Vampire, this is a good time to look at the stat sheet. You know, the most used jokers, you got some great cards. There's lots of X-Malt scattered throughout. And then if we go all the way down to page 20, I've completed 1 round with Vampire. 1 round. It's just so useless. There are so many useful enhancements. Lucky cards are so strong. Gold cards, chariot cards. Vampire taking those away, taking away glass, taking away lovers, is just not at all worth the 0.1x scaling on it. The most unplayable X-Malts. I guess I put it 1 above Madness. Okay, shortcut, very situational. Hologram. I mean, I've held it a lot of rounds. It can be useful because there are cards in the game that add cards to your deck, and in multiplayer, you want to open every card pack. You can find those purple seals, and it can be just, it can scale to a 2x card pretty quickly. It does something in that sense, but it is definitely one of the worst X-Malts. Ooh, there's some interesting ones coming up. Starting with Vagabond. Vagabond is strong tarot gen. If you don't know how to get your money back up after using Vagabond, and you're just falling behind in shops and it's not giving enough, Vagabond can be bad. But you know, you can't pass a Vagabond. It is one of the best tarot gens in the game, and because of that, it's a can't pass Joker, though there obviously are times where you can pass it. When your econ's good enough and it costs too much money, the four tarots you can generate are just not worth the Vagabond. Baron. It is probably gonna be there until the end game. Most of the time, if I have a Baron and I see an idol, I try to pivot out. Unless I have Baron Mime, I usually take the idol over the Baron. But it can be useful in scoring even when you're not doing high card if you have enough hand size. Mime alone is probably higher than it because Mime can provide scoring and value in a lot more situations. Baron is going to be your main scoring in the end, but Mime is a lot more useful and you can much more often just go high card off of Mime alone, whereas Baron is harder to do so. So it is 100% an endgame build Joker, but Mime allows you to do that a bit better. Cloud9, because of its expensive price, I don't think I can put it above Superposition, but if you find it in a Buffoon pack, it's a solid pickup for sure. Rocket, it's worth more to sell Rocket than it is to keep it. -1 Joker slot for 3 rounds, or you can sell it to get that instant $3. Rocket, I would probably take over all of these in an anti-1 Buffoon pack, but it is a very bad econ Joker. Okay, Midas Mask might be the most can't pass. I think you got to put it below 6 cents because if you're built into Luckies or something else, but I'm curious how many rounds I've actually held a Midas Mask. I've probably taken a Midas Mask a lot more than a lot of these Jokers, but the thing about Midas Mask, you want to get max value and then sell it. And it's, you know, in the bottom half of my Joker list. But you want to take Midas Mask almost every time and then be able to utilize it and get rid of it as soon as possible. And with Ticket being such a strong card in the game, I would sell any of these Jokers for a Midas Mask in a lot of situations. Rebates, ooh, this might be the first S+. Rebate is so strong. $20 a round if you can discard right. It can be even more than that if you're built into a card and it hits that. And built into purples, it can be so much money. This works with every single build in every single game at every stage of the game. Mail-in Rebate is an insanely strong econ Joker. It's just always going to be worth picking up and is usually the last value generator to go in the lineup. You know, I'm selling the mine before I sell the Rebate unless I have the perfect gold card setup. So Rebate is S+ for sure. Gift card is a controversial one. I know Vagabond loves his gift card. There's some players that think it is a lot more value, but me personally, 96 rounds with gift card. Gift card's one you want to try to hold for a lot of rounds. You need very good tarot gen to justify taking a gift card over something else. You know, any endgame Joker is getting very little value off of it. Just a hard Joker to take over everything else. We'll put it above Scholar here. Gift card goes in C. This next Joker. Holy. Bean is such a useful Joker. Unbiased opinion. The amount of value you can generate from a Bean. Bean is a very good scoring Joker. Bean is a very good econ Joker. Bean is a very good value generator. Bean enables every single Joker on this list. Bean enables you to get every bit of value. If you have room, if you have something that's not generating value, Bean is likely doing more than that card. Bean is doing so much more. You have 2 econ Jokers. Bean plus one of those econ Jokers a lot of the time is going to do more than both of those econ Jokers combined. So Bean, honestly, the best Joker. There's so much value you can gain from getting deeper in your deck, being able to full discard. You can draw your hand, you can hold your steel, you can play your Midas cards, you can hold your Midas cards with the Mime. Bean is S+ tier. If you can take a Bean, you always take the Bean. Erosion? Obviously, very situational. You know, it's like Steel Joker where you already need to have done the thing to pick it up. You're not taking Steel Joker and then trying to scale it. You already need to have it scaled and see it in shop. And you're like, oh, actually, that's a plus 30 malt, that's pretty solid. All it takes is a couple, like a hangman fool early game, and it's worth picking up. I think D tier is fine for it. Reserved parking, another controversial card. I love reserved parking. Parking can generate a lot of value. I always take a parking in the first couple antes, and if you can get a joker that allows you to beat the blind in full greed parking, it can be a very strong econ joker. I definitely put it above these, but we'll put it below loyalty card. Here's the thing about To the Moon. Gives $3 on the payout or $2 on the payout a lot of the times in those early games. In the late game, you don't have room for To the Moon. I think it does something, is a fair spot. We'll put it right below gift card. Hallucination is a must take. You see a hallucination in shop, you try to buy that before you buy another joker. You try to get the value out of hallucination. Obviously can miss like 8 ball, but I think it's a lot easier to use, and it's a very hard joker to pass. So hallucination is an A tier joker. Fortune teller, the more you scale a fortune teller, the more useless it becomes, because tarot cards just do so much more than the +1 malt they provide for fortune teller. Let me see, 56 rounds with fortune teller puts it in D tier. All right, hand size always does something. If you have a joker slot and you have any value to gain, juggler's almost always worth taking, so it's a solid pickup. I think a discard, because there's so much more synergies with discarding all your rebates and your faceless, a discard is going to be more valuable. So I think these are both solid pickups if you have the room for them. What's my Stone Joker at? Stone Joker at 1 round, record total 100 chips. How is it 100 chips? I've definitely had more than 4 stone cards. I think I can't put it above unplayable with 1 round held. That makes it literally unplayable. I've probably only gotten it from a judgment. Golden Joker, I think I put Cloud9 above. Maybe this is a reason to take a Gold 9 from a pack, and it's definitely better than Egg. So Golden Joker is a solid pickup. Lucky Cat, I almost want to put in very situational, but it's not very situational. Lucky cards are so good and retriggers are so common. You can pass a Lucky Cat in a lot of scenarios if you have any solid build, so I can't put it A tier, but Lucky Cat's a solid pickup. Baseball card, it's a situational one, but there are quite a few situations where baseball card at least provides 2x. It's a solid pickup. Sometimes, you know, there's a lot of useful uncommons. By the time you have a lot of uncommons in your lineup, baseball is not going to be that useful. So we'll put it in B tier, right below Drunkard. The Bull is a situational card. You don't want to hold it. The Bull is 50 chips. If you have interest, you can pick it up from a Buffoon pack to score in the match. So I'll put it right by Splash. Cola. Skipping is not very good in multiplayer at all. You know, in White Stake, maybe it's a camp pass because you're always going to buy and sell it, but it does something most of the times. I don't think it's a situational because you kind of want to take it a lot of the times. So if you see it, you try to make room for it, and I think that puts it right below Drunkard. Trading card, deck fixing, and econ, probably ahead of reserved, but below loyalty card. It's a solid pickup. Flashcard, another one of those scaling plus malts. On White Stake, scaling plus malt is just so bad because by the time you spend the money to scale it to a meaningful amount, you probably have something better that makes it obsolete. We'll put it right above Crazy Joker. Popcorn does its job, you know. It's gonna give you enough malts to live those blinds, and you're not gonna keep it longer than it would last either way a lot of the times. I think I take the Droll if it's first shop over it, but I take the Popcorn over any of these. Trousers. Scaling trousers doesn't cost that much. They do scale quick enough that they are enough to live the blinds, and you can get them up to like +20. I'll put them right below Jolly. Ancient Joker. Ancient is a good enough card to build your whole game around, and if the idol comes, you're still probably keeping that Ancient over like a set of retriggers. It's gonna be staying in the roster the entire game. I think I put it above Baron because I feel safer building into an Ancient Joker than a Baron because there's a lot more Jokers that can scale off this, and Baron is just kind of hoping for the mime. So Ancient is an endgame card for sure. Ramen, Ramen's a situational one, but it is useful to pick up an ante 2. I think I'm using a ramen more than a hologram often. You're always going to be using your discards. You're never going to save discards to keep ramen, but it increases your score if you find it at the right time. Walkie-talkie. Walkie-talkie is a strong card. Walkie-talkie, you just play a full house of 10s and 4s, and that's your scoring. Probably around the level of a raised fist, but because I like retriggers more than high card, it goes one above raised fist. Seltzer. I hate Seltzer. It's just a can't pass joker. As much as it sucks in multiplayer because of how the shop queue works, it is a joker you can't pass, and you probably have to hold it throughout the entire ante. Okay, Castle. Castle's bad. It just doesn't scale enough chips fast enough to keep. Probably better than Runner though, because you can kind of just ignore it if you pick it up from a Buffoon pack. But $3 sell value, I'm probably going to sell that for interest rather than try to scale it at all. I think Castle is a D tier for sure. I love Smiley Face. You're almost always building into face card retriggers in Balatro multiplayer, and this is something to do that. It's better than Fib. Any flush house plus X malt is going to be better than it, but it is a good solid pickup. Can be very strong and probably the best scoring for the first few antes. Campfire is a tough one. Campfire is a gamble whether it is worth it for the cost. If you have the right vouchers, Campfire can scale enough to be meaningful in the first 3 antes, maybe even beyond that, depending how weak the seed is. But sometimes it can cost you being less deep in shop, probably right below Cat. I think I prefer Cat. Okay, Ticket. I mean, Ticket is going up here somewhere. A lot of people put it S plus as their #1 joker. Ticket can be bait a lot of the time, but if you don't get Ticket online and your opponent does, you probably lose that game. You know, Ticket is a meta-defining card, the highest scaling econ in the game. If you can build into it, very strong. But if the tarots don't come and you need to fill that joker slot, sometimes Ticket has to go. So I think it's honestly similar to Baron in that boat, where it can be bait, but it scales extremely high and is an in-game joker. Acrobat. Almost always playing one big hand in multiplayer. You are down to 1 life. You're taking the Acrobat to score a little bit more. 3x is more meaningful in a lot of games than you think it is, so it's a very solid pickup. Sock, endgame card. I think I like Dusk over it. I think I prioritize an Ankh on a Sock than I do a Mime, because there's all the value you can get retriggering face cards, you know, Smiley Face, Chad, Photo. Just retriggers so strong in this game. Swashbuckler. Doesn't do good enough on its own, but you can like pick it up in ante 2. It's a situational card because early game it's not very strong. And I think all of these can hold up on their own, and Swashbuckler can't. And it's going to be worse than any of these value generators. So Swashbuckler, D tier. Troubadour. Now, I do love me some hand size, but -1 hand hurts. Because it's +2 hand size, you only get 3 less cards deep in your deck, and often you get deeper in your deck because it enables you to discard 5 cards. But also because it's barely even in a lot of scenarios, you can pass on it a lot of times. So it's not a can't pass joker, but it's a solid pickup, and sometimes a juggler is just better, but valuable in a lot of scenarios. So certificates exactly like Seance. You need to find a way to get seals, but I hate the deck bloat that it causes, though there's a lot of value to gain from seals, you know, even if you're not getting that red seal immediately. Purple seals are valuable, gold seals are valuable, blue seals are valuable, but you do need to get out of it eventually. I think you cannot pass certificate as much as it sucks to take. Smeared, you might think it's situational, but Smeared is deck fixing at the cost of -1 joker slot. It can synergize with a solid amount of cards, you know, Bloodstone, Ancient, all the suit jokers. I think it's a solid pickup a lot of the times. Throwback is terrible. Skipping in multiplayer, you're taking max 1 or 2 skips. You're maybe skipping for an idol, and at that point, throwback is useless. So, bottom of D tier. Chad. Now this is multiplayer Chad. I'm talking about multiplayer Chad that retriggers the first and second card once instead of the first card twice, so it's not as good as vanilla Chad. You know, this doesn't allow you to get as much value from photograph, as much value from the gold seal in your deck or the lucky card in your deck. But if you do have 2 cards you can play, it works with so many things in this game. It's a common joker, but it's a lot of times you're selling Shad, so I can't put it in endgame build, but I think I put it above Seltzer. But you know, in vanilla, Chad's an S tier joker. Rough gem, good econ. A lot of the times you have too much scoring, so you can't get more than $5 around, but it can scale up if you do have, you know, red seal wilds, you're built into ancient, and there's no other econ in the seed, but I like golden joker more. Let's get through these suit jokers. Bloodstone. You have to take a bloodstone, and it can be potentially endgame build, but sometimes it's doing nothing. You know, if you just have bloodstone, no retriggers, and you're at the PvP and you haven't found a sun card, you're probably not using bloodstone for scoring, but you can't pass on it. So I think bloodstone goes right below the Chad. Arrowhead, as we said, chips are very strong, and Arrowhead is about one of the strongest forms of chips. But because you have to play spades and it's not as easy as face cards, it's not going to be higher than Scary Face. But you know, all it takes is a spade flush. So I think it's probably around this walkie-talkie raised fist angle. Onyx Agate, that's a joker you can build into. Fibonacci, less punishing because clubs, you know, obviously aren't an endgame suit. But 35 mult on a flush immediately, so strong. And you can do Agate for your whole scoring up to like ante 4 or 5. So I think it's better than the Scary Face, and it's going to be a scoring joker you can build around a lot of times. Glass Joker. I need to check the numbers on Glass Joker. I need to check the numbers. 3 rounds completed with Glass Joker. So I think this is a very situational card. I think it's better than Steel Joker because 0.75 scaling is very fast, but just a bad joker because, as the problem with a lot of these, the time this becomes online, it's useless. All right, this is the guy, Photograph. Photograph, one of those scaling X malts that works different than the Lucky Cat campfire kind of scaling, because you take a photograph, it starts off as a 2x, but then with your retriggers and red seals, it's going to scale to a solid scoring joker. You know, oftentimes being an 8 or 16x card. I think it's right around Bloodstone. You can't pass the photograph, but these other cards provide more value. Showman. What showman we talking about? We talking about the greatest showman or the beta showman? Sometimes the showman's a can't pass. If you have the right jokers, the right build, you know, any of these good common jokers, if you find a second one of them, a second rebate, a second ticket, a second chat, a second photo, just being up a joker on your opponent is so strong that showman can be game winning a lot of times. Sometimes it's bait. I think showman's a can't pass, and I'm taking showman more than the hack. Showman's an A tier. Flower pot, it does something. Oftentimes you're playing a flush house or something similar, so you can't really do flower pot. It's almost strictly a first PvP card, so it's gonna be top of C tier. All right, blueprint. I mean, that's easy. No explanation needed. Wee Joker, you find a Wee Joker in a buffoon pack, and that's $4. Sometimes that's better than a temperance. It's a pretty terrible rare. And on white stake, you don't want to be playing 2s. You're not going to scale that. You know, it's definitely better than the Square Joker. I think it's a more viable card to use, but it's just a bad card. I'd rather do anything else than play my 2s to scale a Wee Joker. This card's very strong. -1 hand size. That hurts. These two can be interchangeable, but I think they are right next to each other, and probably Drunkard is useful in more cases than Merry Andy. Dice. Dice is a can't pass. You know, that's another speculative take, like a showman. Works with a lot of cards, you know, your business card, your lucky cards, your bloodstone. I think dice is interchangeable with showman. Downside of dice is glass. If you're built into glass, you're not taking the dice. Here's the big guy. This is maybe the mascot of multiplayer. This is how 80% of games are decided. It's not an S plus joker. It's useless for a lot of the game, but you know, it is the end game build. You find an idol, you know, even if you see the Baron, it's gonna be an idol game. Idol is an S tier joker. Seeing double, worse than flower pot in my opinion. Probably one above ramen. Hit the road. I really like building into Jackson multiplayer. It's always jacks or kings, because if you find a good card in a pack, like a red seal 9, you're going to have a much easier time getting it to a jack than a king. So Hit the Road can be a good card. Definitely better than a baseball. I'll put it right below Smiley. Ooh, all of the jokers. These are the jokers. The duo, you know, I think the duo is the bottom of a solid pickup. 2x is 2x. Trio, 3x is a lot more worth it for a joker slot. Joker slots have value. In most games, the 2x is leaving very soon, but a 3x joker slot, a lot more usable. And I think it goes right behind Acrobat because you can always do Acrobat. A trio, you can miss your draw or whatever. Family, doing 4 of a kind is a lot harder to do. Like, if you see the family in the first 2 antes, it's harder to pull that off than the trio. So you can pass on the family more often, and sometimes it's the first to go. It doesn't work with the flush houses. Being able to do 3 of a kind is usually better. So the trio goes above the family. The order is for the first PvP, and that's it. You're only using this if you have a basic plus malts and you want to get the first life. The tribe, I think the tribe does something. You're built into flush 5, flush houses. If you have that slot for whatever reason or another, it's a 2x you can pick up. Stuntman, I almost want to put it situational, but it's not very situational. Stuntman is a joker you want to keep in the first 2 antes. The problem is it costs a lot of value to do a Stuntman. That's -2 hand size. You are selling this right after the PvP most of the time, but because it's just so strong early game with the basic flat malt, I think I put it right next to half joker. So Stuntman is a solid pickup early game for sure. Invis, you know, it's going to be shaking the whole game until you find that idol or sock to use it on, and eventually risking it hits the 6th sense, but probably the most can't pass joker, and obviously not an endgame build joker. There's just a few jokers remaining. Brainstorm, we'll copy rebate with the Brainstorm blueprint. Satellite? Satellite is unplayable. Let's see. Let's look at the stats. Wow. Page 21 out of 21. If I've used 3 different planet cards, I don't got room for a satellite. When you're not taking planet cards early game, and you're never using a diverse amount of planet cards, you're always just going to be trying to stack a few to block asteroids, to scale the hands you're playing. Satellite's so useless and never gonna be above $3, especially when you can take it. So it is the worst econ joker. It just is. It's unplayable. We'll chop it with dagger. Shoot the moon. I used to love my shoot the moon builds. You know, shoot the moon, just another card that enables high card, and I think slightly better than fist because you can usually get a little bit more scoring out of shoot the moon because you can do those 4 cards. Scales with the mime, works with your steel cards. Shoot the moon is a solid pickup. Driver's license, obviously if it's online, it's just a solid X-Malt pickup, but it's going to be not very useful by the time you get it online. You're going to be scoring more than it helps. I'll put it above Blackboard. You know, once you get it online, very good, but not good enough, quick enough. Cartomancer. Cartomancer is a tarot every round, but the thing is, when Cartomancer triggers is the biggest thing that hinders it, because when you're exiting the shop, that's the most likely point you are gonna have your tarot slots full. I think it's similar to delayed grat, definitely better. I would rather get the value from an early Cartomancer than a delayed grat. I think I put it below Rough Gem because Rough Gem does have the potential to be good in those later game builds with those wild cards, red seals, whatever you have. Okay, Astronomer. Never worth buying, but it's a good card to pick up in a Buffoon pack because of its $4 sell value, because if there's a planet card in shop that's econ, you know, it does something if you have the room. Burn Joker, I think it's a solid pickup. You know, you're ahead on high card levels if your opponent doesn't use it, if it does end up being a high card seed, but a lot of the times it's not. And it's definitely a joker you're upset to see on a rare skip. Bootstraps, very similar to Bull, but it is worse than Bull because it gives 10 malts, and there's a lot more things that can give 10 malts. So right next to trading card, not very good, doesn't scale enough. Canio, it's probably better than Cat. I think I hate to admit it, but all it takes is 2 hangman. You got a 5x joker. Solid pickup is very solid tempo. Tribule, I mean, it's an S+. There's no downside to building towards a tribulate. It's never ever bait. It's the reason you have to use a soul card sometimes. You find this, no matter what the situation of your game is, unless you're playing abandoned deck, you have 32x, which is just gross. Yorick is way worse than Canio. You can get Canio up to 3x before the PvP. You know, Yorick, sometimes you gotta sell it before it can scale up. But, you know, it costs nothing to scale. You just discard it. I think Cat is better. Campfire costs too much to scale. Yorick's a bit slow, but if you're on the right deck, you have the discards for it. It is a solid scaling X-Malt. For KO, I mean, it's a can't pass. I don't think it's it's definitely not an endgame build joker. You know, it's probably just the best form of a value generation card. I think Sixth Sense is above Perkeo though. Perkeo can get you more copies of the cards you have. Sixth Sense gets you those cards that you need. So Perkeo, I think you can't put it above Sixth Sense or Invis in a can't pass tier. All right. The last few jokers are the multiplayer jokers. I don't love a lot of the multiplayer jokers, especially speedrun. Speedrun is annoying, and I do pass speedrun a lot of the time because it's just not a fun card. Unplayable, not fun. I mean, I just played a 4.5 hour set the other day, so clearly not a card I can use. So unplayable. Conjoined, easy to pull off. You know, 3x is 3x, and it's unconditional if you're good enough. It's almost a can't pass because if your opponent takes it, you kind of got to take it to be able to compete. I think Conjoined is better than Loyalty. Pizza is a solid pickup. You know, +2 discards for an ante is very good. You do have to sacrifice some scoring oftentimes to take this into the PvP. You know, that's -1 joker slot for the PvP. But obviously, first 2 antes, first 3 antes, you have a rebate or something, you already know you're going to lose this PvP. Getting that discard is nice. The downside is it gives your opponent a discard as well. It's a solid pickup, similar to a Cola, but because you have to hold it in PvP. Worse than these. Penny Pincher. Penny Pincher is a very good econ joker. If your opponent's on good econ, it's a good way to catch up. If you have the exact same setup as your opponent for econ, it also is a good joker because it gives you information on where your opponent's at. You know how much money they're spending each shop. You know if you're ahead and how greedy you need to be with your rolls. But it's not good econ early game, so I don't think I can put it in can't pass. Probably one above reserve parking. But you know, sometimes you take it and your opponent's making $2 around on some minimum wage salary and you get nothing. So B tier. Pacifists in White Stake is a D tier joker. These can be used in PvP. I think it goes right above Sly. Taxes in White Stake requires the right seed and the right insight on what your opponent is doing. Taxes gives +4 malt for every card your opponent sold in the ante. So you don't get any value until the PvP. This isn't a card you can use to live the blinds. And because of that, it's a lot worse than it should be. Very, very situational card. And because of that, we'll put it right below Misprint. Defensive Joker. Chips are strong, and Defensive Joker gives a lot of chips. Defensive Joker basically evens out the lives. You know, you lost the first PvP. If you see one of these in shop and you have some basic plus malt, it can easily get you that life back and even them out. It's not something you want to see when you're ahead, but it is a strong joker, a solid pickup. If it does something for you, I think it's in the same realm as these. So defensive, a good pickup. Skip off. I've held skip off for 12 rounds. It gives hands and discards for the skips you've taken over your opponent. I play the exact same as my opponent. It's not +1 hand and discard for blind skipped. It's blind skipped over your nemesis, and I'm always trying to keep that even. Very rarely, and maybe max taking 1 skip. So +1 hand and discard is good, but you know, I've held this 12 rounds. It is extremely situational, though it can be strong. This is more situational. Burglar is going to be useful in a lot more scenarios, so put it right below that. Let's go gambling. It's econ, it's scoring, and it hits every time. You can't pass a gambling. Gambling with dice, insanely strong. It's on average making $10 a round. I think it's right below Vagabond. Maybe Vagabond goes here, and then gambling goes above Riff Raff. Everyone loves gambling, and that concludes the tier list. It's basically take these to live the blinds, take these mid game to win the PvP and gain some value, and take these to get those high scoring builds that take you well into the geese. But this is the only correct multiplayer tier list. You're not allowed listening to anyone else's opinion.